Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SB Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Saving Bryan titled Fake News. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen on YouTube, and we're going to be listening through it from start till finish. We're going to hear what we think. Let's go. What do we got? A DVD intro screen, it's cool. Immediately high effort with it. This is good. Great vocal chops over top of that beat, man.
I'm straight killing it. Eat shit like I might be giving it. Casualties, casually, online academy. Truth is conspiracy. Welcome to my galaxy. Smoking cocaine, pills and adrenaline. Smoking dope in, carbohydrate loaded. Mad dog stroking, I'm bones out broken. Big words spoken, man keep me from through.
Great shift here with the rhythmic adjusting. Great chord. Just a great short chorus section, right? It's just nice to have little bits and pieces and then sort of seamlessly transition back into it. Just a fantastic shift there coming down from that. Fantastic introduction to their work. Really well produced video, great use of effects there. I like the VCR screen, like you're looking into the television with the fake news. It's just really effective stuff, man. And there we go, it turns off like that, and you got video for gravity on that side there. If you want to check it next, again, just really well thought out with Saving Bryan and the other great use of negative space there. There you go, not clever. I'm really impressed with it. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to be able to review this track, and we're going to talk about this more in the conclusion section. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Saving Bryan, titled Fake News. Now, what do I think this track is about? I think it's about someone who is discussing, again, the prevalence of fake news, the conspiracy theories, everything that's going on in the world with misinformation, and how it's building these realities that they don't exist, and people are getting sort of like brainwashed and drawn into those. And you know, people are shaping their lives around this, and it's sort of the identification, is sort of the self-doubt. Is this real? You know, is what I'm experiencing actually the case of it? You know, are we actually where we need to be? I think at this time more than ever, it's really important to be talking about stuff like this, as there is a lot of misinformation on the internet, no matter what your perspective, right? And with stuff like AI and everything like that coming along, and being able to produce stuff that is almost so convincing for a lot of people that they literally perceive the misinformation as truth. The images, you know, it's an interesting story. I think a lot of people will be able to relate and get behind this. I think the way that it's told by both the main vocalist as well as, I believe it was like the bassist, if I'm not mistaken, who is doing the clean vocals in those chorus sections, I think that it's tremendous. We have a mixture of really sort of whole-sounding clean tones from the hidden chest voice. Typically, I think there's more in the high range, the head voice there. But then we also have like the kind of more hardcore-ish kind of like the vocal fry and the growls and everything like that. And I think that aggression there makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of frustration in the song towards what they're discussing within the piece. I think it's really well considered. I believe that the lots of different variety, like there's so much variation to the way that they communicate within this, and so much personality and so much energy and effort and charisma. It makes for a really compelling listen, whether you're watching the video or listening to the track by itself. I think the way they acted, and you could see them having these conversations and everything like that in it, like they clearly know what they're doing. They're commercial grade in regards to like the approach towards this stuff. And I just think, again, we also had like, I couldn't quite hear the part with the lady at the end, like speaking beforehand, like about what they were discussing there. I want to have another listen through this later on to kind of get that. But I think it's all quite well connected. You get the feeling that they really knew the message they wanted to deliver here, and they nailed it. I think that the way that we sung, again, with the cleans, there was beautiful sort of melody or harmony going on there on those chorus sections there, which worked over top of our movement away from the low strings and working towards some power chords on the guitars, which were kind of dope. And then, of course, when things are a bit more sort of rhythmic with the bass, sort of like zeros and the drums and all that stuff. Not just zeros, we explored the fretboard a bit, but just predominantly the groove there with the old and the chugging and stuff like that. You had the kind of rap, kind of the harsher vocals, and I think that worked too. The track itself, 4 minutes 20, I mean, like, there's like kind of like the TV turning on the Foley, the newscaster thing at the start. And so it's not 4 minutes 20 of music, but I think that the time that we did have with it within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot was utterly fantastic there. You had a story that was told even before a single note was played by any of the instrumentalists. I think that it was just great to have the combination of the different guitar, bass, drum, and synth parts throughout the piece there. There were some digital textures across the verse, and the breakdown. There was several breakdowns. Now, structurally, the track was really intriguing throughout. There was very little to no filler, which I appreciate. Put a lot of effort into making it interesting for the listeners. You never knew what you were going to have next, which was kind of dope. I like when bands don't just stick to a set formula. They really try and switch it up and make it more of a journey the entire way through, getting into different angles and perspectives. And I think that a lot of the joy from that came from the instrumental performances. I mean, joy is in the excitement of it, how much I appreciated the work from the drummer, for example. You know, we didn't pocket that much, if not at all. We had a firm understanding of how to play the kit there. We played a wide variety of different cymbal, kick, and snare grooves there. Some of the double kicks, especially later on in those breakdown sections, were absolutely just they just brutal, man. It was just so quick. That kind of so. I mean, I'm a drummer, man. That's awesome. That's so tight. It's such a tight performance on the kit, and I love the way that they managed to get that synced and gelled nicely with the good rhythm guitar parts as well. Granted, we didn't just stick with the sort of the chug zeros. We had like 8-10 like kind of minor scale legato passages there. We worked across some of the higher strings, had some interesting sort of like flexing, some little bendy parts there, some harmonics there, some bits of tension with the interval choices there in the upper range. But ultimately, again, it was more about the groove pushing us forward with a catchier hook section, the chorus having more sort of anthemic power chords behind it, and so probably more than that, but like a lot of the color was also added from the synth patterns. There was some sort of electronic parts to the synths, and I think that we also had some fun bass tones there that might not have been specifically that, but it was also cool as well in like the mid section, late mid, to have like sort of an electronic kind of drum and bass part just to come down from that heavier vocal part before. And again, that's the lack of predictability within this track that makes it all the more exciting. You know, there's a lot of work put into making this interesting to listen to the entire time. But again, like the synth parts, I think there were some interesting progressions there. A lot of it was more sort of melodic, though, highlighting the mid to highs, where the guitar didn't necessarily reach a lot of the time because it was focused on the mids to lows, interacting with the bass and the drum parts. The bass was tight, by the way. I loved how sort of like, well, it gelled with and niched with the drum patterns there, how it complemented the root notes and the progressions from the rhythm guitars and everything like that. And I think that it was just nice to have some negative space sometime, not just in the video, but also in the audio, where there was dynamic range to the performance. We didn't just play the same loudness the entire time. We had diversity within that. It was full of life. And I firmly believe that it kind of does mirror, the theme does mirror the kind of chaos and uncertainty and sort of potential just the situation is with this stuff. You know, there's a feeling of danger from it, angst, and kind of you get the impression from the lower sort of light notes there, the heaviness of the guitar tones, just the power of the drums and the bass going alongside some of those digital sort of elements there. Digital again, like the digital age, you know, like even though it's the more modern layers there complementing that. It's really cool. I think that if we'd complicated the track and had too many individual distinct chord progressions and bass lines and stuff like that, it might have been a little bit too much to fit in for the sake of the concept. I think overall what we did here compositionally, they tied together with very sort of seamless transitions between parts with, again, different bell curves within it. And by the end of it, you got an appreciation of what they were trying to communicate. And I think that, again, some of the harsher tones from the guitar parts, in addition to everything I've spoken about beforehand, a lot of it does tie back to the vocals in the story. So I think they're well connected. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering was tight. I think they did a fantastic job working with the guitar. The guitars were nicely niched on the side. I think they were double tracked. They were heavy and full of life there. I think the bass and drums are niched in the free spectrum really well. And so the music surrounded you in the headphones as well. There's some of the synth layers, the Foley. It sounded like, again, it was a commercial grade recording there. And you incorporate a lot of those elements there with the filtering of certain parts, like, again, the bass and drums and sort of like lo-fi kind of synthy part there. And you put those together as well with the Foley work, getting everything to sound cohesive and connected within a mix. You have a track which is nice enough without pumping and kicks ass. And also, just on the subject of the recording part, I enjoyed the tone of the vocals too. It was a great solid vocal performance with very little sort of like processing needed to fix in post. It was just really tight. I like it when vocalists can just nail their takes and do it with good technique and in a way which is really additive to the overall experience. But effectively, that's my review of this track from an act named Saving Bryan titled Fake News, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show us some love via the various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time. It's here to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.